Good evening and welcome to this very special episode of Supercars Talk, where we are discussing Shane Van Gisbergen and his debut win in the NASCAR Cup Series. Who could see that coming? I did my Townsville preview video yesterday, which will be going up tomorrow morning. And I predicted Shane to do well in the race. You'll see that tomorrow. But my God, and what impressed me probably the most from that drive, it wasn't just like he qualified third and he was up the front and he, maybe two guys fell off the track. The race did start off wet. So you're fully expecting a bit of chaos and that. It wasn't just like the two guys fell off in front of him or he only passed two guys. 25 laps to go, I think it was. He was in 18th position, I think it was. 5 laps to go when he took the lead on that where the yellow flag came out. They had the restart. He retook the lead again. And then another yellow flag went into the overtime. That was pretty exciting. I was pretty on the edge of my seat, even though I did social media and people messaging and emailing and things like that did spoil the results. I did try and watch it this morning before work, but because of that rain delay, I didn't get to see any racing before I had to go out to, do my job. But, my God, how could you have predicted that? Is just unbelievable what he did. And now, obviously, the questions start getting asked about what his future will be. As soon as he got out of the car, he said, I've got one more year in Australia, and then basically I'll be over here. At the moment, what I would predict is probably we will see him do a few races like this next year and probably as many Xfinity rounds he can fit in, probably then going to a full Xfinity schedule for 2025, looking at doing a full cup schedule in 2026. I would have thought. Just seeing some of the comments coming, it's a bit hard to follow everything when you're just here by yourself. But yeah, thanks for everyone who coming online. I thought this was probably the easiest way to do this. Spiral Death took the day off. I took the Indy 500 one off the other week. So, I thought probably wait a bit before I take another day off for watching some car racing. But my general thoughts on this was the first NASCAR race I've genuinely watched kind of start to finish. I did try and watch some when Ambrose first got into the series and found it very difficult. I think it being more like our kind of race with the, a proper street circuit on paper. The street circuit looked quite boring, and then once again, typical American street circuit looked pretty good once the cars got on track. It was an exciting layout. Some comments here. I haven't got the budget to get Renee Gracie on. And do you think tyre preservation skills? I don't think I think it was probably the more him braking on the street circuit in those mixed conditions. He just the way he was braking was unbelievable. So he could just pick off those cars lap by lap. It just seemed there was gaps between the cars, and he just fill that gap within a few corners and then get straight past them. So, straight into Cup cars. I think there will be some offers definitely coming forward for him. The big thing will be he had the big advantage here. He's done a lot of racing on street circuits where the other guys haven't, obviously, even though they know their cars inside out. It was a very different type of racing for him. Here we go. So this was the first full NASCAR race I've watched. So there was a lot of first impressions. A big thing, the cars just in general just looked tougher. Then you've they crashing into the tire barriers and that, and off they go. Whereas, especially our Gen 3 cars at the moment, very, very disappointing in how they touch something and then it's back to, the pits for a couple of hours to bolt everything back together. I'm giggling at this one. I don't think my budget quite exceeds that far. But yeah, the cars looked really tough and they bounced off the walls and kept going. That's probably something that we need to look at a bit more with Gen 3. The cars looked good too. I was a little bit surprised. You see the photos of them and you'll be like, eh. And then actually seeing them on track, I thought the cars looked pretty good. They raced pretty well together. Don't seem to have a lot of downforce, seem to be able to bounce off each other. That all looks pretty good. Paint jobs, the television was not as crisp as what we're used to, and I'm not sure if that's why the paint jobs, but to me, the paint jobs looked a lot more simple compared to ours. As you can see, even from Shane's, you've got a white bonnet with big logos on it. A lot of the cars seem to be like that. I did notice, I'm not sure if this is, I remember playing the old NASCAR 1 and NASCAR 2 games on the PC many years ago, and there'd be the big shopping list down the back of the front quarter panel of all the little squares of the logos of all the sponsors. The cars didn't have that. Is this something I've just missed and that's been gone for years, or has that just disappeared very recently? I was surprised on that. They didn't seem to have a lot of different sponsors all over the cars, more like ours do. You kind of had one big plaster and then, a few different, whereas even the big teams like 888 with, they've got two big main sponsors. They've got lots of little stickers everywhere. These guys didn't seem to have that. Commentary, they were very excited. There wasn't a lot of talk about how close everything was, and it wasn't that kind of fake excitement that we seem to get sometimes. It seemed like genuine excitement in the commentary. I will say, though, oh my God, ad breaks. I've got so used to watching F1 Supercars on KO and now IndyCar as well on Stan. They do have ad breaks, but we continue getting the feed on those. So you don't actually have an ad break. You just have no commentary for a couple of minutes. Like, you come back from an ad break and Van Gisbergen had passed like 4 cars, and there was so many ad breaks, and it didn't seem. I watched it on KO. I'm not sure if Foxtel is the same with this, but KO, they would play the Toyota GR Corolla ad, and then it would be the KO logo for a minute or whatever, and then I think it was a KFC ad. And then you go back to the foot. But rather than having that, hey, it's like show you 2 ads, go back and just show the feed kind of thing, rather than saying, hey, we're KO, we're in an ad break. That really, especially right at the end there. There was a couple of ad breaks right at the end, and so that's nearly covers off all of my notes. Still do time certain races. It was supposed to be 100 laps. It got brought back to 75. So that's still something that NASCAR does. How do the stage races work? I thought they brought them all back, but was it something to do with because of the yellow flags during the race that they didn't do the stage part? Because they didn't seem to. They seemed to be a countdown at the start, and then it got called off for some reason, and then the second one kind of didn't happen. And my other question, does this mean that he's eligible for the chase now? Because I thought anyone who got a win is eligible for the chase. So does that mean he could be a surprise packet into the chase? But that's basically, it was an exciting race. If I have time, I might try and check out a couple more races. I'm not sure who to go for in the series without Shane there. Was the Wendy's guy? Definitely don't want to go for the Wendy's guy. He seemed to have a lot of trouble. And even the Cam Waters monster guy, he was pretty quick. And then he seemed to end up in the wall quite a few times. I'm trying to read the comments and talk at the same time, which is proving very difficult. I can see Cam and Brodie definitely getting a shot at some point next year on the road side of things. I'm not sure. I don't think they do it as much with road races now. I think the guys are a bit better. But I know kind of when Ambrose went over there, you'd have the guys who would just come in and do the road races for a lot of the NASCAR teams. But if that still happens to an extent, I can see a couple of teams probably taking a chance on bringing a couple of Aussies across to have a crack at that kind of thing. There we go. Ringers can't get into the playoffs. So there we go. There is something, though, if you can still get in if you're like injuries and things, isn't it? So, yeah, there's lots of questions. If I followed the sport more, I would probably know all the answers. Boovy's busy doing F2 results following reviews and that this year. Maybe we can get someone on to cover off some NASCAR stuff. Here we go. It's just like American football, so many stoppages for ads. See, that's where, like, I don't like talking too much about the ball sports on here, but I know with the AFL, you have that period where they kick a goal and they've got to get the ball back to the centre. Good time to have an ad break. But I think they just put in one 30-second ad on those, whereas this was, you're still getting your 3-4 minute ad break. It was just so frustrating. Here we go. Do you think he can afford to wait until 2025 to go to the USA? I suspect what's going to happen is he will have a select campaign next year. I think we won't see him full-time over there until 2025, but he will, where there's gaps in the races, he'll fly over and do that. I can see him gone now. Before this weekend, I would have said he'll go over and do select races kind of for the next 5-10 years, whatever. After this, I can see him full crack at it full time. And he's gone, I think. It's just a matter of time of getting all of his ducks in a row, finishing up with Triple Eight doing the right thing. And, so there we go. Cam Waters is loyal to Tickford. I don't know how loyal he still will be at the end of the year. I think the big thing with Cam Waters at the moment is if he moves now to somewhere other than Tickford, that kind of shuts the door on that Triple Eight opportunity for him. Where the Triple Eight are looking, I mean, traditionally, like, Shane is the only big name driver since Lowndes that they've signed. I think they'd probably, depending on how Richie goes in the endurance races this year, I think Richie is probably in line for that seat more than them getting someone like Cam Waters. And I would say that anywhere that Cam Waters is talking to at the moment, they'll want him for more than 1 year because of that potential opportunity there at Triple Eight. I think people will be trying to, if you're trying to sign a big name driver there, you don't want them lined up to have that contract end when one of the Triple Eight seats is available, if that makes sense. So, Anyway, here we go. I'm just so sorry that I've missed most of the comments. But yeah, Cam at WAU is a very interesting one. I think WAU need to sort out running two cars to the same level before they, there's an issue there with why the second car cannot get generally close to the first car. It would be a hard one to kind of, after what's happened with Percat there, and even it's not like Fullwood did a great job before that. You'd have to take a deep breath, and it would want to be a decent amount of money to take that chance next to Chaz. So here we go. Is Tickford loyal to Cam Waters or any of their drivers? That is a good question. And probably the way they treated Holdsworth was a little bit. I think that was Holdsworth probably playing it up a little bit in the media as well. I mean, I'd been hinting at it for months that Holdsworth was not there for the year after. But yeah, that's definitely a tough one. Here we go. WA, won't take Cam. Chaz won't give up being a number one driver. It's an interesting one, that one. The other thing would be if Chaz would still think that he could beat Cam in equal machinery, and then obviously it brings the whole team forward if both of you are firing on all cylinders. That's where the whole Percat idea was, that someone coming in quicker than what Fullwood was to kind of bring the whole team forward. Here we go. Ryan Wood is looking quite popular. My thing is, I think Feeney probably needed another year in Super 2. He's doing very well this year and probably proving me wrong a little bit. Obviously, the switch to Gen 3 has been, very profitable for him. I think the guys probably need 2 years in Super 2. Unlike, say, with your F3 and F2 and that, it seems that the real greats, they need to move year by year. I think you probably need a beginning year in Super 2 and then your championship kind of year. It's probably a bit unlucky for those guys who win it first time out, because they're expected to move on. But I think 6 rounds is not enough. You need that kind of 2 years experience in Super 2 to, make a decent debut into Supercars. Obviously, the Gen 3 thing with Feeney at the moment is a bit of a outlier, but it generally seems then the guys need at least 2 years in the main game before they start hitting their stride. So this is, and that I would have been pretty annoyed if I was Triple Eight with that one. It's kind of obvious that Feeney didn't need the extra test days for a rookie, but I would have been pretty annoyed that when they signed him, when he started off, he got the 2 years of rookie test days, and then they took that away. That I was very disappointed in that one. And yeah, Feeney did do that half a year of Super 2 with Tickford. Yeah, and there is always exceptions to that rule. And yeah, not saying Ryan Wood couldn't, come straight in and do really good, but it does seem that probably 2 years in Super 2 and then at least a 2-year contract in the main game before you really start kind of getting the results. If you look at, like your Cam Waters, I'm pretty sure he was second or third year in Super 2 when he won the championship. Took him a couple of years before he really started to hit his stride. Even I think Chaz had done 2 years in Super 2 before he came through. Scott McLaughlin had done a couple of years. He was a bit of a freak of nature, taking wins in the first year, but that real kind of consistency, even for Scott McLaughlin, didn't kind of come till, I think it was year 3 was the Volvo year, wasn't it, where they really kind of started getting in there. As for that one, when we see the normal weekly video tomorrow, when I do my preview, I will be. I've got a Bucks party on Saturday, so I definitely won't be in Townsville, but I will be racing go-karts on Saturday. So that I am very excited by that. So here we go. Feeney is definitely proving he didn't need another year in Super 2. Feeney is actually in a really good position right now. My big thing, though, I'd already predicted for the weekend that Shane was going to come back invigorated and he was going to win both races at Townsville there. I think now he's just going to come back on another level. And I think this weekend we will see Shane back in full Shane swing, and he's just going to start chipping away at those Erebus boys now. He'll smash out both race wins this weekend. And we all also are still waiting to hear confirmation what's happening with the parity adjustments and whether there will be one. And then that's where I think the Erebus boys probably will start to struggle if you've got, Cam and Chaz up the front there starting to take points away from them. With, Shane will start winning now. He'll just go on a bit of a tear, and then there might be some of the other guys in the middle there stealing points off the Erebus guys, and that's where the points gap will start to come down. Hopefully, it's a battle for the championship that keeps us interested to the end. But it's why am I just want to see bigger fields, and that was one thing with the whole NASCAR thing today. The bigger field just looks better. It does, to me. Formula One even looks a little bit silly with such a small field on the grid. It just looks more exciting. There's more happening. It does give some of the older drivers a bit more of a chance to, step down, and then younger drivers a bit of a chance to come in and kind of step up. So you start off with your smaller teams, and then, you work your way up into, maybe a middle team, and then you come into a top team. Someone like Feeney might get farmed out for a year to a junior team kind of thing, rather than just being thrown straight into the spotlight there. Obviously, there will probably always be the Jack Smiths in the field. Having said that, though, they're very competitive for what they are. Back in the old days, you'd have some of these businessmen that had got to their late 40s, early 50s and had the money to go and buy like a Group A touring car and that, and go out and do a few rounds a year, and they would be woefully off the pace. Whereas like guys like Jack Smith, if you'd put him into a 90s field with their kind of budget, his skill, etc., he would have easily been in the top 10. I think back to like Paul Romano. He would probably get blown away by Jack Smith, but back in that kind of mid-90s, he looked really impressive as a privateer coming in with a bit of budget, decent car and that. So I like this. Do you watch the Black Flags Matter, the NASCAR busts? I've been getting a little bit into them recently, getting a tiny little bit of NASCAR knowledge up. I really like, if you haven't seen his Black Flags Matter, I quite enjoy his YouTube videos as well. He covers off some of the NASCAR stuff really well, I think. Here we go. Only Jack Smith can't beat Jack Smith. So, and what's this? I like a mix. So I did a video a few weeks ago, and I think I really like the format back. I think it was around that kind of 2014, 2015, 2016, where we had the two shorter sprints on a Saturday and then a bigger, longer race on a Sunday. I really enjoyed that because you had some guys who were really good at the sprint races, some guys who were really good at the big, long race Sunday. And there was a little bit of saving tyres between the races off memory. I think it was Mark Winterbottom. With his championship, he'd focused on those longer races because there was more points on the Sunday, and a lot of the time kind of gave away a bit on the Saturday to then focus and win on the Sunday. It did kind of just mix it up a little bit. It wasn't just your straightforward, every day seems the same at the moment. I like that kind of format changing, and that the guys... it's hard because Formula One should always be your 300-kilometre race, and that's it. I don't like the sprint races there. But I do like, say, with Supercars, where we have the big, long endurance races, and I would like to see some, 20, 30-minute sprint races, and then on the same weekend have kind of an hour and a half or to 2 hour kind of mini enduro, like your maybe 250K races on the Sunday. So here we go. I would love to. I've got a lot of ideas for videos, but it's just trying to find the time between work and everything else to get all this stuff out. I am actually working on some model stuff in the background, which the first video of that should be out this week. That will be a bit more of consistent content on that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just trying to find time to fit all of this stuff in. That's my biggest problem. The researching on some of this stuff takes an extraordinary long time, and I'm usually trying to do it later at night when I'm very tired, and I get very easily distracted looking up stuff on YouTube. So here we go. Yeah, what's with Addison? I think that's on this Peter Addison. I think that was just the headline for that week, because now he's actually cancelled the order on that car, so he can't. Yeah, you can't take something to Le Mans that you don't own. So here we go. No, probably not. At the moment, I'm not sure if, but we moved into a new house over Christmas, and right at the moment, with the way interest rates have gone, there won't be much travel going on. Hopefully, I'll make it to Sandown later on in the year, and then I've got a couple of other things that I want to get to. But yeah, we'll see how we go with all of that. I think I will be very, very local for this year, and then we'll see how we go from that. James loves the model content. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the models too, so that's why I want to do more of it. And the 2022 models. So I'm trying to think if what I've got on order of those. They should be out now. This is probably the most disappointing thing with the model scene, is the amount of time that some of these take to come out. Like in part of the video, it is a news video. There is some that from last year that have just been changed, what they're going to do with them. So, yeah. Yep, he says that, and then, yeah, This is probably just getting more free publicity. That's what I think a lot of that is. It is very cheap. Like I could come out and jump on Instabook and all of that and say, hey, I wanted to run a Supercars team, but they wouldn't sell me a license. I definitely don't have the money to buy a license, but I can say that and then say, oh, this is unfair. I want to start Supercars Talk Racing, and Supercars won't sell me a license. You know, this is unfair. Put your money. There's, you know, Pete Ziberis, the Groves have come in since, you know, he's been talking about all this. There is ways into the series if you really want to get in, but you have to, you know, you've got to fork out for it. And it seems, unfortunately, at the moment, he doesn't seem to be forking out for it. So, okay, this one I did think about this. My big problem is I've started collecting the Scott McLaughlin Indy cars, which now I want to get some Will Power Indy cars as well. And I've been very strict on my model collecting for a very long time, that I only bought Australian, like V8 supercars or Australian touring cars, basically. I have bought some international Group A cars. I've got a couple of 12-hour and 24-hour Bathurst winners. I do have a model of one of my cars that I used to own, but I've tried to keep it very, very strict. And yeah, going down the path of buying a couple of Scott McLaughlin Indy cars, which is now, I've got 3, there's 2 more on order, and I want to get some Will Power ones as well. So all of a sudden, this is why I didn't buy any Mark Webber Formula One cars, because it would have turned into Daniel Ricciardo Formula One cars, and yeah, it would have just spiraled out of control. So, yeah, so I'm still waiting for that one too. Yeah, I ordered the Chas Mostert one. I can't remember. I think that was supposed to be early this year, but yeah, the dates that they put out, yeah, add a good 6 months onto them. So it's not that I'm not a big fan of Phillip. I just think the racing is genuine. Like Phillip Island as a driver's track, absolutely amazing. But generally the racing there, especially in the previous cars, they just spread out, and then you'd get massive tyre degradation, and it was a tyre saving exercise where the field was spread out generally. Whereas at like Winton and Queensland Raceway, although I've driven around Winton, I imagine Queensland Raceway kind of taking a road car there for a track day is probably quite boring. And yeah, Winton, it is technical, but I'm sure Phillip Island is an amazing circuit to drive around. But as for racing, going there, like for the fans, you can, you stand kind of on that hill or whatever at Winton. There's similar setup at Queensland Raceway. You can see the whole track, a bit like Sandown, where you go to Phillip Island, you see your tiny little section, that's it. Phillip Island getting in and out of is an absolute nightmare. I haven't been there for a Supercars race weekend for a very, very long time. But even when you got fraction crowds there, it was a nightmare. I haven't been to Winton or Queensland Raceway for a Supercars weekend, but I imagine they're a little bit better to get in and out of. And just generally, like, you can see everything, and the racing is generally better there. So I would prefer to see those two on the calendar before we went back to Phillip Island. The fans don't go there, and the racing generally isn't as good. It's a bit like Albert Park. I can see why they want to go there, but generally the racing's pretty ordinary at Albert Park, even though it's, from driving it in simulators and stuff, it's a pretty cool track to drive around. But yeah, there's Calder Park. That was always fun, and a great spectator track. That was set up really well. Generally, you had pretty good racing there as well. So, before I run out of voice, I was aiming for about 10, 15 minutes on this, and we've gone to 32. So maybe I might try and do a bit more of these. Thank you, everyone, for watching live. This obviously will be going up on the channel for everyone else to watch. But I will have a normal video out tomorrow morning, and then there will be a model video later on this week, hopefully. So thank you very much, Shane Van Gisbergen. That was just an absolutely amazing effort. I'm nearly speechless. There's too many comments coming in for me to click on them. We nearly didn't go off topic. It was actually pretty good. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. I think I might try and do some more of these because this seems to have gone pretty well. But until next time, I'm still Dave, and I'll catch you later.